Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Um, Welcome everyone. Inshallah, we will be having our program tonight for the Shahadat of Abu Fazl Abbas alayhi salam. May Allah accept our Zawdari and du'as, inshallah. So we'll kick it off with Ziyarat Ashura, recited by Abbas Ali Fazl. And then inshallah we'll continue with Marcia with several reciters, followed by Majlis, Maatam. We will have guest reciter Muhammad Abbas Karim gracing us again, inshallah, and then conclude with Ziyarat. So Abbas Ali, if you're ready, Bismillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Rasulillah. Assalamu alayka ya khairatullah wa ibn khairatih. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen wa ibn Sayyid al-Wasiyyin. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Fatimata Sayyidata Nisa al-Alameen. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثار والوتر الموتور السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله عبدا ما بكيت وبقي الليل والنهار يا أبا عبد الله لقد أزمت الرزيات وجلت وأزمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات فلعن الله أمة أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم ولعن الله الممهدين لكم بالتمكين من قتالكم بريت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشيائهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم يا أبا عبد الله إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبا ولعن الله ابن مرجان ولعن الله عمر بن سعد ولعن الله الشمران ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وعلجمت وتنقبت لقتالك بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عزم مصابي بك وأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة يا أبا عبد الله إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونسب لك الحرب وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم وابرأوا إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانا وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشيائكم بريت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وتقربوا إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشيائهم وأتباعهم إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن أعداكم فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم وارزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يؤتيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يؤتي مصابا بمصيبة مصيبة ما أعظمها وعظم رذيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وكف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة عبد العابدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضائف عليهم اللعنة منك والعذاب العليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن عن الإصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خذ أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أولا ثم عن الثانية والثالثة والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد وشمران وعلى أبي سفيان وعلى زياد وعلى مروان إلى يوم القيامة. سجود. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم رزيته. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا محجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. All right. محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على
محمد وآل
تفتح بسم الله.
صلى على النبي.
اللهم صل على
اللهم
محمد.
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
लाशे पे सकीना यही कहती हूँ है मेरे अम्मू पानी پانی کے لیے تم نے اذیت یہ اٹھائی ہے میرے امو بازو بھی ہوئے دونوں جدا کٹ کے بدن سے تن ہو گیا ٹکڑے یہ کیسی تیری شکل لائنوں نے بنائی ہے میرے امو پانی کے لیے ہائے تجھے جان سے مارا دریا کے کنارے کچھ ساکی کوثر سے انہیں شرم نہ آئی ہے میرے امو اب کس سے کہوں گی کہ میں پیاسی ہوں چچا جان لا دو مجھے پانی دل سوز کوئی دیتا نہیں ایسا دکھائی ہے میرے امو دریا سے نلا نے دیا ایک پانی کا قطرہ ہے ہاتھ کسی نے میں پیاسی رہی جان وہاں تم نے گوا دی ہے میرے امو تم مر گئے میں رہ گئی روتی ہوں ہوئی پیاسی پانی کو ترس تھی और अपनी प्यास अपने कौसर पे बुझाई है मेरे अम्मू है दरिया बागे बयान क्या करूं उसका बर जाती है छाती जिस तरह से वो कहती थी शबीर की जाई है मेरे अम्मू मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Taki Abbas, if you're ready, Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abbas Muraj, and today I will be reciting two poems or two raps. The one that I'm reciting right now is a rap on Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, and this is one I made in 2018, and I made by myself. This is original, so I thought I'd share it with you. Please recite one last salawat.
Allahumma salli ala
Muhammad
Muhammad wa ali
Muhammad.
Good.
My name is Abbas, and Hussein's my brother. My name is Abbas, and I'm a faithful warrior. My name is Abbas, and I'm a fearless fighter. My name is Abbas, and Hussein's follower. I went on my horse and I went riding. Faster I went and I tried to go wing. I went for my niece, indeed I strived. I couldn't bear to see her thirsty all the time. On one hand I held the flag of Hussein, oh it hurts to see my people in pain. I stepped out of my horse and filled up my musk. Don't worry people, I vow I will come. I stepped on the horse thinking I could make it. But the enemy said no one will receive it. They shot my arrow in my eye. Oh, pain, but I held it inside. They cut my right arm and my left. Oh, it hurt, but I still went. They shot another arrow in my water carrier, but I still went forward because in front of me was no barrier. They shot many arrows at me, and many of those arrows hit me. That is enough, I couldn't take it anymore. And after that, I fell down from the horse. Oh, Hussein, forgive my horrible sin. I vowed to give you water, it was a promise. And on that day I was dead, and on that day was my final breath. Then Hussein brought the Ulam, and Sakina told everyone to come. My uncle Abbas would give everyone water. Come everyone, come more closer. Soon she found out it was Hussein. Oh, Hussein, my beloved Hussein. Oh, my father was my flag bearer. Where is he who has given us all water? Please recite one salawat before I go on to other rap.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Now this one is unoriginal. I found it somewhere else, but I thought I'd recite it with you guys. Tears flow from the eyes, heavy as rain, when you hear the tragic story of Imam Hussein. He was held by the Prophet when he was born. He smiled with joy, yet inside he was torn, because he knew you were born with a purpose so divine. To save Islam, you would be sacrificed. You stood for justice, you gave your life, revived al-Islam, yeah, you brought it to life. See, Hussein was outnumbered, he still stood strong. Hussein was on haqq, and he knew all along, steadfast on the plains of Karbala, the lion of Ali, the flower of Zahra. Your death in reality is victory. Your name alone is in the books of history. Hussein minni wa ana min Hussein, Hussein minni wa ana min Hussein. Hussein is for me, and I am from Hussein. Hussein is for me, and I am from Hussein. Hussein is for me, and I am from Hussein. Hussein is for me, and I am from Hussein. Yazid on the rise, the masses confused, offered lust with the lies and the face of your abuse. O beloved Abbas makes a move to the river to quench the thirst of his fellow brothers. Because his arms he never gave up until his soul departs and his eyes stayed shut. The Ahlul Bayt never begged for mercy, even when they killed Aliaska, the baby. You see, Hussein was outnumbered, he still stood strong. Hussein was on haq and he knew all along. 72 shaheed in the land of Karbala. One remains, but La ilaha Zahra. Your death in reality is victory. Your name alone is echoed in the books of history. Hussein minni wa ana min al-Hussein. Hussein minni wa ana min al-Hussein. Hussein is for me, and I am from Hussein. Hussein is for me, and I am from Hussein. Hussein is for me, and I am from Hussein. Hussein is for me, and I am from Hussein. Please recite Allah salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Good job, mashallah, Taqi Abbas. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Bismillah, John.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
نکلے خیمے سے جب ہتھیار لگائے عباس چڑھ کے رہوار پا میدان میں آئے عباس غل ہوا مشق بھی ساتھ لائے عباس دیکھنا ایک بوند پانی نہ پائے غم ہے پیاسوں کا سجے جنگ کے ہتھیار بھی ہیں لڑنے بھی آئے ہیں پانی کے طلبگار بھی ہیں نکلے خیمے سے جب صلوات اللہ محمد وآل محمد.
Allahumma salli ala
میدان میں حسین کا غم خار گر پڑا میدان میں حسین کا غم خار گر پڑا شان کٹا کے گھوڑے سے جرار گر پڑا دکھلا گیا بہار وفا جان مرتضی ڈوبا ہوا لہو میں ہے ارمان مرتضی ہے پارا پارا نہر پہ قرآن مرتضی فوج خدا کہاں علمدار گر پڑا میدان میں حسین کا غم خار گر پڑا تنہا حسین ہو گئے یاور نہیں رہا تشنا لبوں میں ساقیے کوثر نہیں رہا بی بی سکینہ میں غضنفر نہیں رہا فوج خدا کہاں علمدار گر پڑا تھرا اٹھے گا غم سے بیابان کربلا روئے گی خون شام غریبان کربلا رسی میں باندھے جائیں گے مہمان کربلا فوج خدا کہاں علمدار گر پڑا دریائے زندگی کا کنارہ نہیں رہا بے آس بیویاں ہے سہارا نہیں رہا تھا دل کو جس سے چین وہ پیارا نہیں رہا فوج خدا کہاں علمدار گر پڑا میدان میں حسین کا غم خار گر پڑا شان کٹا کے گھوڑے سے جرار گر پڑا صلوات اللہ محمد وآل محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أحسنت محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على
صلی اللہ محمد
وآل محمد بسم الله شيخ
سورة المباركة الفاتحة
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا والنبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وبآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وصل على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والسولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والصبر السجادية وآثار الباقرية ومؤاسر الصادقية وعلوم الكاظمية وحجج رضوية وجود التقوية والنقاوة النقوية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية والقائمة بالحق. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتاب الكريم ومحكم كتاب المجيد قوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. The Lion of Karbala. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam's entire life had a vision for Karbala that he continuously worked towards. In fact, when Amirul Mu'mineen was looking for a wife, Imam Ali alayhi salam had a vision for Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam even before the birth of Hazrat Abbas, Hazrat Abul Fadl alayhi salam. Imam Ali alayhi salam goes to his brother Aqil, who is an expert when it comes to the field of genealogy. He asks his brother Aqil, I choose for me a woman that descends from the heroes of Arab, so that when I marry her, she is to give me a child who is a horseman, a ferocious warrior. Aqil responds to Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, marry Fatima, Ummul Baneen from the tribe of Kilab, for no Arab is as courageous, as brave as her fathers and forefathers. So therefore we can see from here that Amir al-Mu'mineen had a vision for Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas even before the birth of Abbas alayhi salam. The vision of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam is one that continued throughout his upbringing. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam was brought up and nursed by none other than his loyal and faithful mother, Ummul Baneen. And he was taught how to be loyal. He was taught knowledge. He was taught generosity. He was taught faithfulness for his entire life. And he therefore acted upon the highest of principles, the highest of morals. Ummul Baneen herself, her loyalty was at such a point where she comes in at the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, having newly met Ali alayhi salam. She asks Imam Ali alayhi salam to not call her by the name Fatima, because every time Amir al-Mu'mineen would call Baneen as Fatima, it would remind the children, it would remind Hassan and Hussein of their own beloved mother. This was the epitome of Baneen's loyalty, and she would teach all of her sons, including Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, on how to be loyal, how to be faithful, that never were they to call Hassan, Hussein, Zainab, Kulthum as siblings, as their brothers and sisters. Rather, they are to call them as masters and mistresses. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam's father too, Amir al-Mu'mineen, was one that is said to be emulating the life of the Holy Prophet, the characteristics and the personality of the Holy Prophet. Him being the inheritor of the Holy Prophet, he was also a lion when it came to the battlefield, when it came in the combat. So Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam on one hand has his own mother Ummul Baneen, and of course at the other has Amir al-Mu'mineen, from where he can take training and lessons of loyalty, and using this he wraps his whole entire life working towards a goal, a focus, a vision that he had. We all know the story on how when Amir al-Mu'mineen was on his deathbed in the month of Ramadan in the city of Kufa, how he gathers all of his children together and entrusts the care of all of his children to Imam Hassan alayhi salam. We all know that Hazrat Abbas, who was merely at the age of 12 years old at the time, starts sobbing, tears fall from his eyes. Amir al-Mu'mineen calls Abbas to come forward. He calls Hussein to also come forward. After speaking to Abu Abdullah, he turns to Abbas. He says to him, Abbas, my child, I know your love for Hussein is unbound, And although you are very young to be told at this point in time, when the day dawns, never think of a sacrifice too great when it comes on Hussein and his children. And therefore we see, from choosing the mother of Abbas, from choosing his name to his entire upbringing, Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam had a clear vision, he had a clear focus, he had a clear goal in mind all the way until his martyrdom in Karbala. He had a vision that he is to support his brother Hussein. He had a vision that he is to aid his brother Hussein. He had a vision that he is to help his brother Hussein. Vision, goal setting, focus was something that revolved around the entire life of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. And given tonight is a night that is ascribed to Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, the topic of discussion that I have chosen for tonight's discussion is titled Hazrat Abbas and Visioning. The importance and tools of goal setting and focus within our own life. Therefore, before we begin, it is to the utmost importance, it is of course vital that we understand what we mean when we say the word vision. Now, vision has been described as the starting point for a strategy or a plan towards a goal. Without a vision, there can be no strategy. Without a vision, there can be no plan. And therefore, when we have vision in life, we know where it is that we want to go to. We know where it is that we're aiming our life towards. And having a vision, having a mission statement, having a goal is something that the organizations, the corporations would spend a lot of money, resource, and energy in formulating one. And at the same time, they would spend as equal amount of resource and energy and time to embed it within their culture and embed it within their employees. For example, a company's goal, its vision, its focus may be to reach a certain level of profitability. A company's goal may be to reach a certain level of a percentage of a market share, or maybe to become a market leader within their own industry. For individuals, their end goal may, for example, academically be to get to an Ivy League, to get your amazing grades and go to an amazing university or college. Physically, it may be, for example, to lead a fit, a healthy life. Personally, it may be that individuals may have many milestones to meet whatever vision they have. For example, one of them being purchasing a house. The same question can, of course, be asked as us, individual Muslims, or as a society, as a collection. We, of course, have our own spiritual goals that we have been working towards, which is, of course, for the hereafter and for the afterlife. And although tonight's discussion will be discussing on visioning, the importance of goal setting and the tools that we can use to embed this understanding of the importance of goal setting in our life, we may not necessarily be delving into the depthness of what our goals should be, especially how it should be aligned to the afterlife. We may touch upon it, but that's not going to be a topic of discussion for tonight, as that is a completely separate discussion altogether. So moving forward, when it comes to visioning, I would like to quote Dr. Stanley Ridgely. Dr. Stanley Ridgely is a professor at management, and he states, and he explains what a vision is. He says that a vision is an articulation of a powerful, achievable, and a motivating stretch goal. Here, Dr. Ridgely states that a vision is made of 4 components. So let's break this down and let's understand it one by one. Powerful, achievable, motivating, and stretch. Let's see powerful. You see, a vision is inevitably a dream, that something we would like to do in the future, but it is so powerful, it's so ambitious that even though it's something that we would like to do in our future, all of our decisions that are based currently work towards that future goal, work towards something that's so powerful, it impacts and influences the current life that we're living in our day-to-day life. To quote poetically, Dr. A.J. Abdul Kalam, the former president of India, he states, very poetically, he states that a dream is not something that you see whilst you sleep. Rather, a dream is something that never lets you sleep because it's so powerful, it's so ambitious. So this is number one, a powerful goal that drives our behavior. Number two, a goal, Dr. Ridgely says, a goal is achievable. You see, we all have been given skills, we've all acquired traits, we've all acquired expertise. And therefore, with the right level of support, with the right level of skills and expertise we have, a goal shouldn't be something that is completely impossible. A goal should be something that is realistic, something that we know that with the skills that we have and that skills we can gain in the future, we will be able to achieve it. Thirdly, a goal is a motivating goal. Just the thought of achieving that goal is a driving force, fills our hearts with positive energy. It is the perseverance so that we are able to meet that goal. That goal needs to be motivating. And of course, finally, it needs to be stretching. There's no point having a goal which you can meet with half of the capabilities that you have right now. We have a few sets of capabilities, but what it needs to do is it needs to grow our capabilities. It needs to develop our skills in so that our goal is based on the potential skills that we may be able to acquire within the future. And that goal is meant to be aligned to that. Powerful, achievable, motivating, and of course, something that stretches us. In order to solidify our understanding of what we mean by these four categories of how vision is broken down with and the different compartments, let me narrate to you a beautiful incident through the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, chapter 38, Surah Sa'ad, verse number 35, he says, Qala, he said, who? Prophet Sulaiman, Rabbi ghfirli, my Lord, forgive me. وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِيَ لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي, and give me a kingdom, the like of which will never be granted to anyone after me. إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْوَهَّابُ, truly you are ever giving. We all know Prophet Sulaiman was a prophet. He was also a king, and he was bestowed with a kingdom that is unrivaled with anyone that is to come after him. His kingdom was so vast that the sun would never set. His kingdom was such that he had power over all the jinns and he had power over the winds. This is the vision of Sulaiman alayhi salam, and this is before he was able to get his dua accepted. This is how he wraps his dua around. And so let's break this dua down and understand how this can help us understand better on what our vision should be like. Firstly, Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam starts and begins his dua by praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, Rabbir firli, oh Allah, forgive me. So he starts his supplication by asking for forgiveness. So the first lesson that we can get from this ayat is whatever you do, Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam always had the hereafter, always had the afterlife in his mind. He always wanted to work towards forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which will help him later on. The second lesson that we may be able to learn is his later dua, which is to obtain a kingdom which is unrivaled, which is one of the largest kingdoms to ever have, is in fact something that works towards with the forgiveness of Allah. So basically he wants to work towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he uses that kingdom to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, when he has the kingdom that he does, he is able to influence and inspire all those individuals within his kingdom to also obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of the first lessons that we can get from the dua of Sulaiman alayhi salam, that when we make our vision, when we have an overarching vision, we should always make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala part of our life, part of our vision, so that it helps us inevitably in the afterlife. Secondly, Sulaiman alayhi salam asks for a kingdom from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is unrivaled for anyone that comes after him. This is something which is near impossible. This dua, this vision of Sulaiman alayhi salam teaches us how your vision needs to be powerful. Sometimes you may have heard across those sayings that dream so big that people think you're crazy, right? If we didn't know that Sulaiman was able to control the wind and the jinn, and he had such a great kingdom that the sun would never set, what would we see as this? vision as. Prophet Sulaiman's vision was powerful. It was super ambitious. It was huge, and it was borderline near impossible. And because it was so huge and so powerful, Sulaiman was motivated. Similarly, when we have our own visions, our visions need to be so powerful, so motivating, that if we aim for the moon, if we miss, where do we land? We land amongst the stars. It needs to be huge. Thirdly, Sulaiman alayhi salam was the son of who? Dawood alayhi salam. Dawood was a prophet and he was a king. Sulaiman, from a very young age, of course, under the training of his own father, Dawood alayhi salam, was exposed on how to govern a kingdom, was exposed to how to manage people. He had the training, he had the qualifications, he had an experience on how to have a kingdom. So when he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, oh Allah, give me a kingdom, it is clearly an achievable goal. It is a realistic goal because Sulaiman already has some of the skills and some of the capabilities to reach that goal. However, because this goal is so stretching, it's so huge, it's so powerful, it is also stretching Sulaiman's own skills. It's making him grow. It's developing him from the training that he got from his father on how to rule. He is now going to increase and work upon that training so that he now rules upon the entire kingdom. This is Sulaiman's lesson to us on how goals should not only be aligned towards the afterlife, but how they should be powerful, how they should be achievable, how they should be motivating, and how they should be stretching and stretch our life in a way that we grow and develop. Now, after having solidified somewhat of our understanding on what a vision is and what they should comprise of, let us now take it a little step forward and understand why having a vision is so important within our life and in what way visions can help us, benefit us. One of the first things that vision helps us is it adds focus in our life. Begin with the end in mind is the second habit of the 7 habits of highly effective people. This is a book authored by Stephen Covey. It's one of the best-seller books out there. As part of beginning with the end in mind, Stephen Covey, he writes that people are working harder than ever before. However, because they lack clarity, because they lack vision, unfortunately, they're not able to get very far. Inevitably, what they're doing, rather than pulling a rope with all their might, they're pushing it with all their might. What Stephen Covey is trying to say here, that without focus, without clarity, without vision, without understanding where you want to be at the end, no matter how fast you run, you will inevitably be running in the opposite direction, because unless you know where you want to go, you will be doing a disservice to your own life. So one of the first things that we need to understand why vision is useful is because it adds clarity to our life. It adds focus. It adds a goal where we want to go. Stephen Covey brilliantly illustrates and presents an imagination, a visualization that I'd like you to also participate. Imagine that you've just arrived into a funeral. You park your car in the car park, you come out of your car and you walk towards the casket, you walk towards the coffin. And whilst you walk, you realize you appreciate the environment is quite somber and you see so many people that you already know. And there's a sense of sharing that grief of having lost a loved one. You share the joy of having known the same individual. And as you slowly walk forward within that very somber environment, somber atmosphere, you go to the open casket, you look into the coffin, and you come face to face, then none other than yourself. This entire funeral ceremony is your funeral, be it 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years down the line. And I'd like you to continue this visualization exercise with me. If it helps, feel free to close your eyes. Now, as this funeral ceremony continues, realize that there's going to be 4 people that are going to make a speech about you, about your life, and how you are as an individual, and how they felt with your presence. One of the first person that is to speak is going to be someone from your family. It may be your parents, it may be your grandparents, it may be your siblings, your cousins, your uncles, your aunts. And they're going to speak on how you are as an individual within the family. The second to speak is going to be one of your friends who can give a flavor on how you are as a person. The third individual is going to be someone from your work who's going to speak. It may be your manager, it may be your colleague. And finally, there's going to be a member from the community that you belong to, that you had an involvement in, that's also going to speak about you. Now, right now, I'd like you to think deeply. What is it that you'd like all of these different people to speak about you? What kind of a husband, son, wife would you like their words to reflect? What sort of a son, daughter, cousin would you like them to describe you as? What sort of a colleague, community member, friend would you like them to remember you as? What sort of characters would you like them to bring out? What sort of achievements or contributions would you like them to state? Look carefully at everyone that's going to be here around. Try and think what difference you would like to make in each of their lives. And to take this visualization a little bit further, to take this exercise a little bit further, I would like you to imagine that one of those speaking about your life is going to be the Imam of our time. When the Imam comes and speaks about you, what would you like your Imam to speak about you, say, in 10 years from today? How would you like the Imam of our time to describe you? What sort of achievements would you like the Imam of our time to be proud of? Beginning with the end in mind is all about asking the questions. What are my main goals and main priorities in life? What are the outcomes that I would like at the end of my life, or at the end of the 10 years, 5 years, 3 years? Why do I do what I do? Why are those outcomes so important within my life? And let's fast forward. You see, we as humans are generally typically motivated by what we can expect in the future. Very rarely are we motivated by the past. So we need to understand that when we have a focus in mind, we are motivated to work towards that. And when we know what we're going towards, we have a benchmark to measure ourselves again. How do we know what's in 10 years' time? Are we successful? Are we not successful? Or are we maybe in between? How do we know that? If we have a focus, if we have a goal, that helps us understand why it's important to have a goal. So this was number one, why it's important to have a vision, because it adds focus within our life. The other thing that is quite useful is it motivates us. It fills us with the energy, with the desire to work towards us. You see, as humans, we always like to work towards targets. And when we meet those targets, it gives us a sense of joy. It gives us a feel good. It gives us a good feeling when we reach that target. Similarly, having a goal gives us that target that we work towards. And then it doesn't matter how much effort that we put in, because our eyes are on this shiny trophy, because our eyes is on this shiny prize, all of our efforts become a lot more productive. They become a lot more effective. For example, let me give you an example. One of the milestones that you'd like to reach is, for instance, completing a marathon in 6 months' time. No matter how hard it's going to be, you know what the sweetness of that feeling is going to be when you've just completed that really tiring marathon. So you are going to be putting in the days and nights of the exercise and the practice which it requires. Amir al-Mu'mineen, in a very similar reference, has said that the sweetness of success erases the bitterness of patience. So when you know that you have a prize to work towards, whatever bitterness there was, whatever dedication that you put in, whatever discipline, whatever patience that you had, it's all going to pay off, because you're going to get that sweet nectar of a prize. And what happens when we bring together focus and we bring together motivation? When these two things combine, when they marry each other, the byproduct of it is better time management and better discipline. Because when we know what we're going towards and why we're going towards, and we know that it's going to definitely hit our sweet spot, then we inevitably become much better at managing our time in all of the tasks that we do, and we become disciplined with it. Now, that was a discussion on why it's important to have a vision. Inevitably, there's no point having a vision if it's not going to be coupled with action. There's no point of thinking you want to do something if inevitably you're not actually going to do it. As the famous saying goes, vision without action is nothing but a dream. Action without a vision is nothing but passing your time. But when vision is coupled with action, it is there, it is here when you can change the world. And we need to understand that we need to put in the effort, we need to put in the time and dedication to put in the effort so that when we go towards our vision, we are able to meet it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, Surah Najm, chapter number 53, verse number 39. He says, وَأَنْ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانَ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. Man shall achieve nothing except for what he strives for. In the following verse, he continues, وَأَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى. And whatever action that you put, whatever effort that you do, it is going to be observed, it's going to be noticed. And therefore here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is emphasizing the value of action, is emphasizing the value of efforts, that whatever effort you put in, it's never going to go unnoticed. It's always going to be there. And remember that whatever action you put forth, this is where you're going to get towards. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a small step. Before we can run, we must walk. Before we walk, we must crawl. And this is the mantra which we perhaps need to apply within our lives, that no matter how daunting the vision that we just created or how powerful it may seem and how overwhelming it may seem, we need to start somewhere. For example, if one of our milestones within our vision is to memorize the entire Quran, then something that can help us is to break this milestone down into smaller achievable chunks. For example, rather than starting memorizing Surah Baqarah straight away, maybe start memorizing Surah Kawthar, Surah Al-Asr. Start something small, maybe then work towards finishing the 30th juz, and then work your way towards memorizing the whole Quran. Another milestone that we may have would be, for example, to go Hajj, to go Ziyarah, to go Umrah. So that's therefore start saving £10, £20, £30, or of course in your circumstances, $10, $20, $30. And it starts small from there. For example, if I have a marathon that I have to finish in 6 months' time, let me start practicing from now, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, so on and so forth. And this is a strategy that can apply, of course, within every aspect of our life, be it academically, be it within our personal life, be it within our social life. And therefore, when we continue with our discussion, the verse of the Holy Quran that I have the honor and privilege to recite before you is a verse from Surah Dhariyat, where in that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created the men, I have not created the jinn, except that they worship me. Here we understand that at the end of the day, our ultimate goal is towards the afterlife. Ultimately, our end goal is hereafter, pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we must understand that as well as our career goals, as well as our physical goals, as well as our relationship goals, we may also have goals that are aligned spiritually, goals that are aligned towards our religious needs. And as we have heard in our ahadith and the traditions from the Ahlul Bayt, that even when it comes to this goal, you get rewarded for the action, for the intention of the good action that you're about to do. So here, worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may appear to be an overwhelming, overarching goal. That's how am I going to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Of course, we have in our tradition that even having the intention to work towards a noble goal, you already have been rewarded. In another instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Zilzal says, فَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. Whoever does an atom's weight of good will inevitably see it. وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. Whoever does an atom's weight of evil will also see it. And therefore, tonight, in the topic titled Hazrat Abbas and Visioning, where we've been discussing on the importance and tools of goal setting, we have so far discussed how Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam's entire goal, his entire life was wrapped around a vision, and that was nurtured by al-Baneen and the upbringing of Amir al-Mu'mineen. We therefore and thereafter discussed what it means to have a vision. It means to have a powerful, achievable, motivating, and stretch goal. We also discussed the importance of visioning, focus, motivation, and discipline and time management. We've also discussed how action contributes to our vision, because if we don't have action without it, then our vision is, of course, not as successful. And finally, we've also discussed the ultimate aim, which is to work towards the afterlife. As part of my conclusion, I would like to go back to that same verse of where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have not created the jinn and the ins and the humankind except that they worship me. If we were to understand this verse, what does this mean for me? From a generic perspective, from a fiqhi jurisprudential perspective, we can take this verse to mean that we need to perform actions, those that worship Allah. For example, Hajj, Khums, Zakat, praying namaz, doing things that are obligatory and then staying away from those that have been prohibited. However, if we go in a little bit deeper and if we try and understand what it means at a more deeper level, we see that it means that we need to work towards at a point where we can call ourselves an abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, you may ask, what's the difference between the acts of worship and becoming an abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You see, these two are different. If you perform an action, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have the characteristics of that act. What do I mean? Just because an individual gives money to a charity once doesn't make him a generous individual. Just because an individual may say a factual statement once doesn't make that individual a truthful, honest individual. Just because an individual may perform acts of worship, Hajj, namaz, salah, doesn't necessarily make him an abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When does an individual become an abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When he inculcates those qualities and those traits within his heart, within his every iota of life. And this, brothers and sisters, concludes our current discussion on visioning and the importance of tools and vision. Tonight, of course, is a night of musibah, and that's why I would like to spend a little bit more time when discussing the musibah of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. But before we do that, let's discuss one or two fada'il, one or two merits of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. But before, please recite the loudest of your salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
al-Banin trained Abbas within his vision in such a way that the name Abbas and loyalty have become synonymous. The name Abbas and loyalty now mean one and the same. The name Abbas and loyalty are of the same kind. A poet so beautifully articulates, he says, whenever the name of Abbas comes on my lips, the sweet fragrance of loyalty can be smelt. An Urdu poet so beautifully and eloquently states, Wafa, he states that वफा को नाज है जिस पर उसे अब्बास कहते हैं, वफा को जिस पर है नाज उसे अब्बास कहते हैं, लगे जो सानी हैदर उसे अब्बास कहते हैं. The man upon pride, the man upon loyalty itself prides upon, you call him Abbas. The man upon loyalty himself itself prides upon, you call Abbas. The man who looks like a second Haydar, you call him Abbas. Alam gaare jo patthar par उसे कहते हैं सब हैदर. अलम घारे जो पत्थर पर उसे कहते हैं सब हैदर. अलम घारे जो पानी पे उसे अब्बास कहते हैं. The one who embeds his flag upon the ground, you call him Haydar. The one who embeds his flag upon the ground, you call him Haydar. The one who embeds his flag upon the water, you call him Abbas. Abbas is the embodiment of loyalty. Abbas is the embodiment of faith. And this is the training that Abbas received from none other than his mother, al-Banin. Brothers and sisters, it has been narrated that when Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, with his Ahlul Bayt, with his womenfolk, enters into Medina, he makes up a tent, he pitches up a tent outside the outskirts of Medina. He calls a man by the name of Bishr bin Hadlam. He says, Bishr, your father was a great poet. Do you also recite poetry? Bishr bin Hadlam says, yes, Yabna Rasulullah, I also recite poetry. Imam says, then Bishr, go to Medina and inform people that we have now returned. Bishr bin Hadlam goes next to the grave of the Holy Prophet. Within Medina, he starts reciting his lines of poetry. He says, "O people of Medina, this is no longer a place for you to stay. For Hussein has been killed in Karbala. His body lies upon the sand of that Arab desert. His head has been paraded amongst the cities." He says that when I was stating this marsiya, when I was stating this poetry from amongst the crowds, a woman holding a baby comes forward. She says, "Ya Na'i," oh, the one who calls out, "Tell me about my son Hussein. Akhbirni waladi al-Hussein." Bishr asked, who is this lady who's calling Hussein her own son? He is told that this is al-Baneen, the mother of Abbas. When he looks at al-Baneen, he says, "Ya al-Baneen, a'adhama Allahu laka al-ajr biwaladi al-Abdullah." Oh al-Baneen, accept my condolences for the death of your son Abdullah. Al-Baneen says, "Oh Bishr, I have not asked about Abdullah. Tell me about my son Hussein." Bishr says, "A'adhama Allahu laka al-ajr biwaladi al-Ja'far." Al-Baneen, accept my condolences for your son Ja'far. Al-Baneen says, "Bishr, I have not asked about Ja'far. Tell me about my son Hussein." Bishr says, "أعظم الله لك العاجر بولدي العثمان." Al-Baneen, accept my condolences for the death of your son Uthman. Al-Baneen says, "Bishr, I have not asked you about Uthman. Tell me about my son Hussein." Now you all know where I am headed towards. Bishr says, "أعظم الله لك العاجر بأبي الفضل العباس." Al-Baneen, accept my condolences for the death of your son Abbas. The narration states that the child that Baneen had within her arms drops to the ground. Baneen holds on to her chest. She calls out, "Oh Bishr, you have broken my heart into pieces. But oh Bishr, tell me about my son Hussein." Brothers and sisters, it is the day of Ashura. Brothers and sisters, today we mourn on the musibah of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Today we mourn on the son of Ali, the son of al-Baneen. We mourn on the moon of the Hashemites. Tonight we mourn on that individual, for if you are to ask a dua through him, your dua will never be rejected. We mourn on Babul Hawa'ij. Brothers and sisters, tonight we mourn on the standard bearer of Hussein. Tonight we mourn on the water bearer of Sakina. Tonight we mourn on that individual whom Zainab would find security on. Tonight, brothers and sisters, we mourn on Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Tonight, don't let your tears, don't hold on to your tears. Tonight, cry. Tonight, weep the same way Hussein would have wept when he would have come across the arms of Abbas. Brothers and sisters, the day of Ashura dawns on the plains of Karbala. The companions go one by one and they're martyred. Abbas comes to Hussein. He says, "Mawla, please give me permission." Hussein looks at Abbas. He says, "Abbas, anta sahibi liwa'i." Abbas, you are the flag bearer. You are the commander of my army. How can I let you go? For if you go, my army will be scattered. Abbas goes back. He comes again. And now Akbar is no more. Qasim is no more. He asks, he pleads with Hussein, "Hussein, please, my master, let me go. Permit me." Hussein says, "Abbas, anta sahibi liwa'i." Abbas, you are the flag bearer. You are the commander of my army. How can I bear to let you go? Abbas, with tears down his eyes, goes back. He returns. He says, "My master, my chest has become tight. I am tired of this life. Master, allow me to go so that I may be able to take revenge on the blood of my brothers from these hypocrites." Now, I don't know what's happened. I don't know what's happened, what changed the heart of Hussein. But they say that the cries of the woman folk, the cries of Sakina raised, "Al-Atash, Al-Atash." Hussein looks at Abbas with a heavy heart. He says, Abbas, if you must go, then go bring water for the children. Bring water for Sakina. Abbas now goes towards the tents of the ladies. He bids farewell with Kulthum. He bids farewell with all of the ladies. He comes to Zainab. Zainab looks at Abbas. She says nothing. She looks towards Kufa. And then she calls out, oh Father Ali, whatever you had said on that night of Ramadan has now come true. Abbas says, Lady Zainab, what is it that Amir al-Mu'mineen, what is it that our father said? Zainab says that it was the night of Ramadan. Amir al-Mu'mineen, our father, was in his deathbed. He looks at me, he says, Zainab, these are the wrists that are going to be tied around by ropes. Zainab, you are to be paraded in the city of Kufa. I would think to myself, I have 18 brothers. Out of those 18 brothers, I have a brother by the name of Abbas. Who would dare come towards me? But Abbas, now that you have come to bid farewell, I know that my wrists will now have ropes tied around them. Oh Abbas, I know that now I will be paraded in the city of Kufa. Brothers and sisters, Abbas now bids farewell to Zainab. He now mounts upon his horse. He takes the water bag of Sakina. He rides towards the enemies. The enemies, unable to defend themselves. Abbas kills many of them. He reaches the Furat. He fills up the water bag. Now he goes back to his horse, riding towards the camps of Hussein with only one vision, with only one mission, with only one goal. Whatever happens, this water must reach Sakina. Whatever happens, this water must reach the camps of Hussein. One mal'oon comes from the back of Abbas. He strikes the right arm of Abbas. Abbas holds the water bag with his left. Another mal'oon comes and he blows another strike. Abbas now holds the water bag with his teeth. Whatever happens, Abbas' goal is the camp of Hussein. The water must reach the camps of Hussein. But brothers and sisters, there come a time where arrows are thrown upon Abbas. Harmala says that I noticed that the heart of Abbas is within this water bag. I fire an arrow. That arrow pierces the water bag of Abbas. All the water begins to drip. Abbas's hopes now lie in the sands of Karbala. As soon as the water drips, Abbas holds his horse. He stands there. Umar bin Sa'd shouts, what are you all waiting for? 4,000 archers. 4,000 archers gather around Abbas. They shoot their arrows. The sky darkens with the arrows of the archers. Abbas is struck from every side. His entire body is now covered in arrows. One of the arrows embeds in the eye of Abbas. Abbas kneels down. He wishes to use his knees to take this arrow out. As soon as he does this, another mal'oon comes, sneaks around behind Al-Abbas. He has an iron mace within his hand. He strikes the skull of Abbas. Abbas, unable to bear it anymore, falls to the ground. There was once an alim who would recite the Musib of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. He says that one night I recited the Masaib of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas in his haram. When I went back home, I was sleeping. Sayyida Zahra comes into my dream. She says, oh Alim, why do you not recite the full Musib of my son Abbas? Why do you not recite the greatest Masaib of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? I say, my lady, I recite all of the Masaib of Abbas. I recite the Musib of his arms being cut. I recite the Musib of the arrow being pierced in his body. I recite the Musibah of him being struck by an iron mace. Oh my lady, I recite all of the Masaib of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. But Sayyida Zahra says, Alim, whenever you recite the Musibah, recite his greatest Musibah. What is this greatest Musibah? Lady Zahra says, whenever you recite the Musibah of Abbas in front of those individuals that mourn for my son, that cry for my son, tell them how Abbas fell onto the ground. Abbas fell onto his face. Brothers and sisters, what did Abbas have in his eyes? When Abbas falls onto the ground, the arrow within the eye of Abbas digs deeper into his skull. Abbas calls out, Assalamu alayka, Ya Aba Abdullah. At that time, narrations say that Hussein was by the side of the camp. Zainab within the tent looks at the face of Hussein. When Abbas raises the call, Hussein's face's color completely changes. Zainab looks at Hussein. She asks, brother, what's happened? Is my Abbas okay? Now what should Abba Abdullah answer? Abba Abdullah answers, Zainab, they've killed Abbas. They've killed my brother. They say when Abbas alayhi salam raised his call for help, raised his salam for help, there were 4 cries that were heard amongst the plains of Karbala. The first cry came from the army of Amr bin Sa'ad. They shouted out, attack the tent of Hussein, for Hussein is now gharib. There is no one to defend the tent. The second cry came from Zainab herself, wa hijaba. The third cry came from the children of Hussein, oh father, tell Uncle Abbas to come back. We will never ask for water. The fourth cry came from Hussein. He holds his back. He calls out, Al-an in kathara an zahri, in an kathara zahri. My back has now been broken. Hussein musters some energy. He rides out towards Abbas. He sees the left arm of Abbas. He sees the right arm of Abbas. He comes at the body of Abbas. Abbas's ruh, Abbas's soul now departs his body. Hussein picks up the flag of Abbas, riding towards the camp. Just imagine what state of heart Sakina would be in. Sakina sees the flag of Uncle Abbas is coming back. But imagine what her state would be when she doesn't see Abbas. Hussein comes into the camps. Sakina sees her father. Sakina sees the flag, but Sakina does not see the flag bearer. Sakina calls out, oh my Uncle Abbas, father, where have you left my Uncle Abbas? إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. ماتم يا حسين يا حسين
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Yeah. Bismillah, Uncle Iqbal.
खैमे में गुल है वफा लो वो अलम आता है रन से अलमदार का लो वो अलम आता है मशके सकीना की भी देखो वो है बन रही खून में डूबा हुआ लो वो अलम आता है पीटते है सर रो रो के हर एक गम गाजी तशद्दुक हुआ لو وہ علم آتا ہے. بھائی کے اب صدمے سے شاہ نہیں جینے کے، موت کا ہے سامنا، لو وہ علم آتا ہے. ہو چکے بے کس ایمان، جنگ ہوئی ہے اختتام، بھائی بھی کام آ چکا، لو وہ علم آتا ہے. لاشے بے سکینہ یہ کہتی ہوئی آئی، اے میرے پانی کے لیے تو نے اذیت یہ اٹھائی، اے میرے پانی کے لیے آئے، تجھے جان سے مارا، دریا کے کنارے، کچھ ساکیے کوثر سے انہیں شرم نہ آئی، اے میرے پانی کے لیے تو نے اذیت یہ اٹھائی، اے میرے
یا حسین
یا حسین یا حسین.
ونجا نظر جب آ گیا ہنس کر سکینہ نے کہا، پنجا نظر جب آ گیا ہنس کر سکینہ نے کہا، بے آب تھے بے تاب ہم آیا، علم عباس کا سر پیٹ کے بولے حرم
آیا، علم عباس
کا سر پیٹ
کے بولے
بولے حرم
حرم
آیا،
علم
علم عباس کا
تم کو سب اٹھو بہم آیا،
علم عباس کا
سر پیٹ
کے
بولے
بولے
حرم آیا، عباس کا
مشکی زبند شاہ کا چوبے علم سے ہے بندہ کس شان سے اے اہل غم
ہم آیا علم عباس کا سر پیٹ کے بولے علم آیا علم عباس کا
پنجا نظر جب آ گیا ہنس کر سکینہ نے کہا بے آب تھے بے تاب ہم آیا علم عباس کا
سر پیٹ
پیٹ کے بولے حرم آیا علم عباس کا
سر پیٹ کے
بولے
حرم
آیا علم
علم
عباس
عباس
پرچم لہو سے لال ہے مشکی زبی گربال ہے افزوں نہ ہو کیوں کر علم آیا علم عباس کا
سر پیٹ کے
بولے حرم آیا
علم
علم عباس کا
ہمارا گیا تیرا چاچا جان اپنی کی تجھ پر فدا دینے کو درد و رنج و غم آیا علم عباس کا سر پیٹ کے
بولے حرم آیا علم عباس کا
سر پیٹ کے بولے
حرم آیا علم عباس
کا
Ya Hussein,
یا حسین
Ya Hussein,
یا حسین
Ya Hussein.
یا حسین
کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار یہ حال ہے لاشے کا سنبھالا نہیں جاتا سنبھالا نہیں جاتا تیر آنکھ سے بھائی کے نکالا نہیں جاتا نکالا نہیں جاتا امداد کو آ جائیے یا حیدر کرار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار حرم عباس کا ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا ہائے علمدار ہائے علمدار زینب نے تیری آس پہ چھوڑا تھا مدینہ، زینب نے تیری آس پہ چھوڑا تھا مدینہ، ہائے چھوڑا تھا مدینہ، میں کیسے بتاؤں اسے سقائے سکینہ، ہائے سقائے سکینہ، مارا گیا زینب تیری چادر کا نگہدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا، ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا، ہائے علمدار، تم قتل ہوئے ہم پہ بھی چل جائے گی شمشیر، ہائے چل جائے گی شمشیر، اغیار میں رہ جائے گی تنہا میری ہمشیر، ہائے تنہا میری ہمشیر، زینب کی ردا بچنے کے باقی نہیں آثار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا، ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا، ہائے علمدار، جس طرح سے گھر لائے تھے مسجد سے علی کو، ہائے مسجد سے علی کو، اس طرح سے لے جائیں گے خیمے میں جری کو، ہائے خیمے میں جری کو، اکبر میرے بھائی کا جنازہ کرو تیار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا،
مرنا ستم عباس کا،
ہائے علمدار،
ہائے علمدار،
آتی ہے صدا لوٹ لو ناموس نبی کو، ہائے ناموس نبی کو، اب مرنا آسان ہے حسین ابن علی کو، ہائے حسین ابن علی کو، مرنے پہ ترے جشن مناتے ہیں ستمگار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا، ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، تھا میر تکلم یہی شبیر کا نوحہ، یہی شبیر کا نوحہ، جاتے ہوئے پورا کرو ارمان ہمارا، ہائے ارمان ہمارا، اے بھائی ہمیں بھائی پکارو ذرا ایک بار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار،
ہائے
علمدار، ہائے علمدار، کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا، ہو گیا مرنا ستم عباس کا، ہائے علمدار،
ہائے علمدار،
دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ، دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ، دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ، ہے خون میں ڈوبا، ہے خون میں ڈوبا سقائے سکینہ، دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ شبیر سے بولے عباس یہ رو کر تعظیم کروں میں کس طرح سے اٹھ کر مجبور ہے مولا ہے مجبور ہے مولا سقائے سکینہ دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ شرمندہ ہوں مولا سب بہہ گیا پانی معصوم سکینہ رہ جائے گی پیاسی اب مجھ کو نہ کہنا ہے اب مجھ کو نہ کہنا سقائے سکینہ دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ ہے دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ نہ ہاتھ سلامت نہ مشک سلامت خادم پہ تمہارے ہے کیسی قیامت اب اٹھ نہ سکے گا ہے اب اٹھ نہ سکے گا سقائے سکینہ دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ رونے لگے بچے کوزوں کو چھپا کر جس وقت بتایا شبیر نے آ کر مارا گیا پیاسا ہے مارا گیا پیاسا سقائے سکینہ دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ اس طرح تو بے بس اس طرح تو بے بس دیکھا نہ کسی کو گھوڑے سے زمین پر جس طرح گرا وہ ارے بے دست گرا تھا بے دست گرا تھا سقائے سکینہ اس طرح تو بے بس دیکھا نہ کسی کو گھوڑے سے زمین پر جس طرح گرا ہو بے دست گرا تھا ہے بے دست گرا تھا سقائے سکینہ دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ دریا سے نہ لوٹا سقائے سکینہ اور آخر میں حکم کی تعمیل میں ایک مناجات ایک استغاثہ مولا عباس کے حوالے آپ کے سماعتوں کی نظر پیش کرنا چاہوں گا. مل کر ایک صلوات پڑھ دیجئے محمد و آل محمد پر.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
محمد.
اور اسی مناجات کے ساتھ، اسی دعا کے ساتھ ہم دعا کرتے ہیں کہ اس سال انشاءاللہ یا جلد سے جلد کربلا میں 40 نصیب ہو الہی ہمیں. ایک اور مل کر صلوات پڑھ دیجیے محمد وآل محمد پر. اللہم صلی
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
یا حضرت عباس روزے پہ بلا لو، بہت دور ہوں تم سے، روزے پہ بلا لو یا حضرت عباس، روزے پہ بلا لو، بہت دور ہوں تم سے، روزے پہ بلا لو، شکوہ بھی تمہیں سے ہے، شکایت بھی تمہیں سے، ہر بات میں کہہ سکتا نہیں مولا کسی سے، نہیں مولا کسی سے، ایک بار تو روزے پہ بلا لیجئے آقا، دل غم سے بھرا ہے تمہیں آ کر میں سناؤں، یا حضرت عباس روزے پہ بلا لو، بہت دور ہوں تم سے، روزے پہ
بلا لو.
اور سقائے حرم رب کی قسم سن لو دعا کو، اے ابن علی اب میری امداد کو پہنچو، امداد کو پہنچو، کب تک میں یوں ہی لکھوں گا اشکوں سے عریضہ، دل غم سے بھرا ہے تمہیں آ کر میں سناؤں، یا حضرت عباس روزے پہ بلا لو، بہت دور ہوں تم سے، روزے پہ بلا لو. اور دنیا میں کہاں تیرے سوا کوئی سہارا، جیتے جی اگر دیکھا نہیں روزہ تمہارا، نہیں روزہ تمہارا، تو دور میں تم سے نہیں رہ پاؤں گا زندہ، دل غم سے بھرا ہے تمہیں آ کر میں سناؤں. اور مکتب پیش کر رہا ہوں، یہ کلام میرے بھائی مرحوم سلمان اعظمی صاحب کا لکھا ہوا ہے. اب واسطہ اس پہلو شکستہ کا ہے تم کو، آخر میں بس اب واسطہ زہرا کا ہے تم کو، زہرا کا ہے تم کو، روزے پہ بلا کر سنو سلمان سے نوحہ، دل غم سے بھرا ہے تمہیں آ کر میں سناؤں. اور جہاں جہاں بھی آپ سب ہیں سب مل کے پڑھیے یا حضرت عباس روزے پہ بلا لو بہت دور ہوں تم سے روزے پہ بلا لو روزے پہ بلا لو برائے تعجیل ظہور امام زمانہ بآواز بلند صلوات اللهم صل على
صل على
محمد وآل
محمد
محمد وعجل فرجه
أحسن جزاك الله.
Thank you so much, Muhammad Abbas. Surah Mubarak al-Fatiha. Just a couple of quick announcements, inshallah. So the Ashura Day program has been sent out earlier today. Inshallah, we will commence with Amal live at 10 a.m., inshallah, led by Brother Amin Dala. And then, inshallah, we'll continue through our Ashura Day program with Marcia starting at 1:15 and the Musiba of Ashura, inshallah. Also, as mentioned earlier, we do have our Ashura at the Baruch drive-through from 4:30 to 6:30 also on Saturday. And then our Sham-e Ghariba program will start at 8:30 p.m. inshallah. We also will be having a special program on Sunday, August 30th from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. with Shaykh Mohammed Muraj, inshallah. It's going to be an interactive session on building and rebuilding a positive mindset. So the Zoom details will be sent out. Please, all can join, inshallah, and please pass the word. With that, let's go ahead and recite 5 times Aman Yujib for all that are sick in our family and around the world. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Aman yujibul mustarra iza da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su. Aman yujibul mustarra iza da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su. Aman yujibul mustarra iza da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su.
أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء صل على محمد وآله.
Rayhan, are you ready? All right. Bismillah. Go ahead.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي هلك بفنائك عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار ولا جعل له آخر أهدي مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا مولى وابن مولى السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلطان أبا الحسن مولانا يا علي بن موسى الرضا كن شفيعنا والشفيع والدي في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا مولى يا صاحب العز والزمان الأمان 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 السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى
في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا كلا ناسا نبيا بينا مدى نسلكه وكاتوا وتدعو فيها طويلا وقضيا الراحمين اللهم
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنت يا
That concludes our program for tonight. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.